video. iPhone is rolling. We're rolling camera. Camera is rolling. Sound is rolling. Let's do claps. Okay, now you do claps along. I'll do claps along. Okay, we're good.
That's a nice loud clap.
Yes,
Mine
and
was
in fact, my claps won't make a difference because I'm not in frame, but okay, perfect. So I have to sit right here.
Do you want me to move anything?
No, I think that's good.
All right.
So,
Let's hit those.
yeah, maybe the halo we don't want to. All right, so hold on a second. All right, anyway, it's laying right there. That's fine. Good people, welcome to another episode of Fight, Crush, Kill, and we are your hosts. I'm Erwin.
And I'm Amanda.
And today what we thought we'd try and do is talk about some of the gear that helps us do what we do. Anything from performance to recovery, and really this particular episode is more geared towards the gadgets, tools, and technologies that we use. We'll just do a quick overview of them, and then over time we will break down into them more specifically about how well they've been working over time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for both of us, for better or worse, I've had gear on the athletic side, but I've also had gear to aid in my recovery. Everything from something like the Halo, incorporating neuroscience. We were both fans. When I got one, I was like, guess what I got? And he's like, oh, I already have that.
Yeah, I got it when they were when they first came out, and I was really interested. So if you're unfamiliar with the Halo, it's haloneuroscience.com, and so
love them, by the way. Like super duper engaged with their athletes too, who are, I mean, I feel like they have a really good stable of athletes, but they're not trying to pimp them out or anything.
No, not
It's
at
just
all.
People who solidly believe in the product.
Olympians, professional athletes, normal, age groupers like ourselves,
But like Timmy O.D., my pal from the
There you go.
Navy, like, come on. So yeah, what I really like about it is that you can change them out. There are these probes that,
right?
Would you say it probe or the primers?
Yeah, they're primers and they're pads that have to
Yeah.
touch the outside of your motor cortex on your brain.
Right.
But
But great if you're also a musician.
yes, right, left hand. I've been using it actually to help improve my lacrosse throwing. I'm learning how to play the guitar, so I'm also going to be doing that as well.
Mm-hmm.
But Halo Neurosport, I feel like it's not going to give you these sort of, you won't put it on and be like, oh, I can lift up a car, but that's not what any of these people are doing. I mean, the Golden State Warriors are not using this, and professional teams are not using this to get a 20% increase in whatever they're doing. At any level, you're really looking at a 1%, 2%, maybe 8% increase, depending on something. One of my friends actually lowered his golf score by like 12 strokes after not playing for like 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll do a podcast on him.
Yeah,
because
for sure.
He's also been into the neuroscience.
Yeah, and that's more of a optimizing performance. Also, we've used so much for recovery to include, I mean, especially with the marathon training I was doing before,
Totally.
the Normatec setup has been amazing. And
Yeah.
I know that you're a fan as well.
Yeah, so I've been using Normatec since, I guess, 2010 or 2011. They just come out with the predecessor to this one. So I don't know if you can show them the unit, but the unit that they have now is really nice and small and compact. The one that I have is bigger. It looks like a...
Oh, yeah. I have the chunk. Okay, I need to upgrade. Because I always want what's new, too.
So but it's a compressor, and they're used in hospitals post-surgery, and what they do is there's a certain form and a certain way that they essentially milk the metabolites out of your legs. So after surgery, they'll use it post-surgery to prevent edema or swelling, which that will help healing over time. And, you don't want too many complications or too much fluid in your extremities. But it's really great. A lot of Tour de France riders, a lot of triathletes, a lot of runners use them, and it really keeps you fresh longer. So
also after a sweet leg day.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Yep.
And you, again, any of these things, like for example, any of the recovery modalities, you don't want to necessarily do them right after you do the exercise. You want to give your body some time to deal with the stress and respond the way it's supposed to respond, but say a few hours afterwards. And I know people use it immediately afterwards. I like to use it many hours afterwards because the metabolites are also signalers for your body to say, okay, send proteins, send amino acids into these different areas to help get better.
Absolutely, and I like to gauge sometimes how do I feel the next day, even after whatever it is, be it a run or a cycle, and then with that knowledge decide whether I want to use it that day. Like, you don't have to use it all the time, you have the option.
And that's also, so I was at South by Southwest last year and I spoke to the CEO and a couple of the head trainers. Natasha Hastings was there, an Olympic gold medalist who also uses the Halo, and they said, well, you know, what you can do is instead of using Halo every single day, take some time off. And it's almost like it's in many ways like you decondition yourself during different times in the season, not only for recovery, but it also gives your body some time to integrate. Much like anything, you stress yourself, you plateau, you integrate, and then you go for the next, you try and train again for the next peak. But that's something.
Let's talk about these real quick too. I mean, we're going to get into a lot more with these sort of devices. The Mark Pro, for me, I had a head injury and it kind of knocked the way my traps and my jaw operate. And having something like this, I would travel with this for a long time to just help flush out the muscle and really bring circulation, especially if you have a lot of trigger points, as a lot of athletic people have. And I know you have a goodie right there.
Right, so this one is very similar, you know, the same idea. It uses electrical stimulation to help the muscle grow, help the muscle recover. They've got different programs. So this one's used by a lot of CrossFit athletes. This one's also, Mark Pro is also used by a lot of long distance athletes of every stripe. So they use these different types of things. Much like the, Normatec's used by, I think, every single NFL, NBA, major team uses these things. So, this isn't just us sitting with our propeller hats on going like, oh, let's try something. I mean, some of it is.
Right,
but
absolutely.
This stuff really is proven. So this one, you have a base unit here. These are wireless units that come in pairs, and you can stick them to your body. And then it will do also something like TENS, which is basic electrical stimulation for pain. But this is something I'm traveling with as well, along with all these things, so that we'll, see how those work.
How about a quick Hyperice shout out? I love this thing. I think my downstairs neighbor does not because it vibrates while you roll out your muscles.
Sure, that's what's vibrating. Although the next thing I'm going to show you is probably not a good.
Actually, that thing, what's that? About a year old now. I think I started seeing the teasers that this was coming out. That's amazing. And it feels like a gun, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, so I have one of these rollers as well. Not this particular Hyperice, but this one's amazing. This does this. So what does this one do now?
This one, well, you turn it on. I don't have a charge right now, but it vibrates on 3 different levels, and as you're rolling out your muscle, it just gets that much deeper into the spots you're trying to roll out. I found it very effective for my ITB and also doing thoracic mobility work, which played in huge with my whole spine surgery situation.
Right.
NBD.
with the hole they put in your neck to just fuse your spine together. So that's very interesting. Now, how does it work on the glutes?
Oh, well, I roll it over my piriformis, actually, that area. With the vibration, it gets deeper than a regular foam roller. I also have a rumble roller. I don't know if you've seen those ones.
I do. I have those.
It looks like
with the spikes.
It's an instrument of torture, but in the best way. But no, this does a great job with that. I don't have as many glute issues as I have with the ITB, so I'm not as familiar, but it works everywhere. I actually, when I started after, I have lots of surgeries. So after my last foot surgery, I had this cast on for a really long time, and I had that atrophy, and not only was I able to start building my calf muscle and roll that out really well where it attaches, the calf just wants to be tight,
absolutely.
but actually the muscle on the front of my shin this was effective in making that feel better, because when I started going back at it, I had these shin splint related muscle pain, but just to kind of roll that out. So yeah, I mean, this is small enough to fit. I mean, I have a Trigger Point, the brand Trigger Point. I have a small Trigger Point roller, but this has traveled with me too.
I use a similar one, but the one that I use is feels a little bit harder than that. It doesn't vibrate, but it's hollow, so I can always stuff socks or like extra lacrosse balls or practice softballs, which I didn't bring, but I use, and I'll use in the car, I'll use in bed, and just roll out with those. So while we're on the Hyperice tip right now, similarly, this is something that I got not too long ago, maybe less than 6 months ago. I'm not exactly sure how long it came out, but I saw this, and you see a lot of these massage guns out there. One of the things that really I like about this is obviously you can change the heads. There's different heads you can put on, a flat one, a pointer, and one that you can, I imagine, use along your spine. This one I don't use so much. These I use. This one's excellent for Trigger Point, but so one of the great things about this is, and I don't know how it will sound, but there's 3 settings.
I tried it yesterday.
Yeah, and I use this daily, and this has changed the way I run, the way I work out, the way I feel, the way I recover. Usually, no matter how much dynamic warm-ups you do, you tend to be a little bit sort of tight, and you feel better after a mile or two, but like 10 or 15 minutes of this, especially on the IT bands, on the quads, on the calves. So here I've been having for the last couple of years this ankle problem. Anytime I run more than like 10 or 15 miles, a day or two later, my leg would swell up like it was broken. So what the orthopedic surgeon had said was one of the ligaments in there was getting a little loose. So I've been trying to strengthen that, and I've also changed sneakers, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But so what using this, really digging in here in between the Achilles and along the calf, on both sides, on the front, on both legs, and so for the glutes, you use this around your greater trochanter, loosens those things up, and also on the hip flexors, you can get deeper into the psoas, all around, every place except for the head. This is really excellent. But the feeling of this, using this for about 10 minutes pre-workout, you have so much more mobility. All your muscles are sliding so much better. There's less adhesions in your fascia, and it feels like there's more blood flow. And really, it's helped from a recovery standpoint. And so now I'm just trying to get back into fitness again. Going to do Kokoro next year, either May or October, and then 2 Ironmans. So I say Kokoro first because if those of you who aren't familiar with Steel Fit Kokoro, that's the A race. There is nothing else. I'm gearing my entire year, in fact, my entire mental and physical and spiritual and emotional existence and growth towards trying to conquer these mountains and this. It's so intimidating. But so this my B races, and we'll dive in, we'll unpack that in later podcasts.
And it'll be fun to follow that too. Yeah.
And there's some really great thinking and some great experience around there. But so a couple Ironmans for B races, but now I'm going from essentially detrained, undertrained. I mean, I ran a very long New York City half marathon in March without training and actually fasting. So it was long, but it was good. I didn't stop, but it was my first run period back after getting this thing sorted. Also on the new Nikes, but again, we'll talk about that.
And I think that's going to be, it's worth mentioning. We both have crushed on different levels in our lives and are both experiencing a bit of a comeback right now from some issues.
Don't call us a comeback. I've been here for years.
Don't call it a comeback. Uncle Al. So I think that it's going to be a cool part of the journey to, we have our glory stories, but neither of us is, those days are over. It's always this, the best is yet to come. And it's a mentality thing that we share, and I'm thinking the people who are going to be watching with us are going to have the same.
I hope so.
Or be inspired to have the same. sort
Experience.
of outlook. Like the best is yet to come. How do I get there?
Right. And it's really about redefining what you can do at certain times in your life. Like, we're not trying to, despite what some of the people in the audience and in our lives have said, you can't recapture that. I'm not trying to recapture it, and I don't think you are either. It's really about understanding and performing performing at your best at this given time with the resources that we have right now. And what we don't have we don't have the decade of our 20s, but luckily about to enter my 50th year. You're still in your teens, and
times 2.
so there's so many more things to say about that. But this is what this is all about. So we use all these tools. It's not just about crushing it 30 days a year, 30 days a month with 0 sleep and then still being fresh like you were when you were a teen or in your 20s. This is about really modulating your effort and approaching things intelligently.
And scaring everybody else at the gym who doesn't wear masks, Bane style, which I love because I was actually testing for an old column I used to write for Ironman magazine, testing that at the gym, wearing a weight vest on the stair stepper, skinny Asian girl, and I think that it was kind of intimidating to some of the people around me.
Sure, I mean,
I could tell.
It is, and people don't really know what to think about it. So this is the Training Mask 3.0. There's been 2 other iterations. This one has a built-in restrictor that you just dial it, and it changes the resistance, and it can get very difficult. So they're designed to make it harder to breathe. So the theory behind it is that the harder it is for you to inspire, so that is to pull in air, you'll work these muscles, you'll actually work all the muscles, diaphragm, and then when you take it off, ostensibly you'll be able to pull in more air with less effort. So the calories and energy expended while you're actually running are anywhere between, I think, 10 to 15% of the calories expended there. So if you become more efficient at it, you become more efficient overall. And I will tell you, much like going on the stair stepper with these masks and a weight vest, you do anything and you can only breathe as if you're breathing through a straw, it changes the way you approach things. It will redefine what you're able to do, and it actually forces you to, instead of, oh my gosh, I'm freaking out, it actually makes you calm down.
Absolutely.
Sort out the breath, and really try and take very intentional, deep breaths in the ways that you can. And then, so also there's another thing we'll unpack in other episodes are things about breath practice. So we mediate a lot of our activities with these things, but we both have breath practices, and this is an entryway into those things, and that's something that you can take with you without any of these things. It's much
totally.
like meditation.
And that also, yes, it goes over into the mindset and all of those other things, which is 1,000 episodes right there.
Yeah, totally. So going into that, I mean, I guess into the mindset area. So these are a couple things that we're also looking at and that we'll use over time. So this is a Muse headband, and you wear this on your headband. It's sort of like Star Trek-y, but you wear it over here, and it comes with an app on I use it on the iPhone, and I have a dedicated iPhone, one of my older iPhones, and this app will read the brainwaves, and I mean, there's not necessarily brainwaves like I'm sending out like aluminum hat brainwaves, but there's some technology that reads a little bit of the electricity that's coming off your head, and then it can determine how well you're getting into certain brain states. So like we're usually in beta, certainly here in New York, we're mostly high beta, versus alpha, which is more of a calmer, different wave state, and it's more like this relaxed attentional state where you're not you do a lot of great learning in there. It's where you approach flow from.
Right.
When you're in a meditative state, you're trying to get into alpha. So this is actually a way that you can measure and train and track your performance over time. So I've used this with myself. I use it with my kids a little bit. They think it's just sort of funny, but giving them an entryway into some of these things is something that they can
Well,
do.
I mean, I know your son plays guitar.
And my daughter has started guitar as well.
Right?
She does.
So there's, I mean, all of this stuff plays in, and it's funny you were talking about brainwaves, which made me think of this book I just read, The Rise of Superman, which I know is a classic favorite of yours.
Stephen Kotler and Jamie Wheel. Well, Stephen Kotler wrote that book, The Rise of Superman. He's an excellent, prolific writer. He's had like 9 New York Times bestsellers.
Yeah.
His
It's
books
somewhere
are-
around here. I just read that and talk about the theta waves and the different ways to put yourself in a position where you're open to flow.
Sure, absolutely.
Which is I think a big part of our approach to
Right.
doing things.
And for athletes, creatives, artists, even coders, video games especially, they've been really designed around trying to develop this experience of flow states. And transient hypofrontality. Transient meaning passing, hypo meaning lower, frontality referring to your prefrontal cortex, where we do most of our executive thinking, and this sort of where we have this sort of critic's mind, this sort of where we will do most of our executive function. The idea is that when you go into flow, that part winks out and allows your brain to actually operate faster. You're receiving more information, or the right information. You're making better decisions.
Able to weed out the bullshit and have a voice driving you that you
Right.
don't have to necessarily listen to, process information, and then do.
Right. So your right action is aligned with the information that's coming out there. A lot of action sports, action adventure sports, athletes really are chasing flow. And I highly recommend that book, Rise of Superman. It's fantastic. Also, Stealing Fire, written by Steve Kotler and Jamie Wheel, who are both they founded the Flow Genome Project, which their goal is to reverse engineer the nuts and bolts, basically reverse bioengineer flow states. And so they've worked with Red Bull athletes, Navy SEALs,
Yep.
DARPA, but really it's about how do you take all these high level thinking and how do you bring it back for normal people. We're not Navy. Well, you're a Navy veteran. You're actually super crushing. Tim is also a Ranger, and Tim is
My boyfriend is Tim.
yes is a great guy, entrepreneur now, MIT grad, but prior to that he's a Ranger, and is you're talking about some elite forces that really use these things in life or death situations. But so for me, how do I do this? Trying to be like the best dad, father, entrepreneur, business person, coach that I can be, and so that's what those are about.
I think it's going to be really fun because we do like the same sort of books. I also read an unreasonable amount of endurance and survival stories, mountaineering type things, but to occasionally just go over a book and talk about it.
Sure.
I think that's going to be something fun for both of us.
Yeah, and so before we dive into the books, there were a couple of books that we like right now. Let's just go through a couple of these things. This contraption right here is called Micropulse, and it's actually so this is a 2x2. You can get them 1x1, but this is a 2x2 that is 2 electrodes by 2 electrodes, and this is a low energy pulsed electromagnetic frequency generator. So basically what this does is you have larger ones which generate a lot of electricity, and you can feel them actually pulse, essentially like squeezing and pulsing like you on a cellular level. This is much lower frequency. I use this more for recovery, use this around different parts of my body. I've been having shoulder issues, so I'll just wear this thing 24 hours a day, and I have multiple batteries that I'll change out, and this battery is dead. Oh no, it's good. So this is A9. So this M1 device has 16 different, you can hear it. You won't really feel anything, but over time it will help. I've found that it helps reduce swelling, it helps improve blood flow, it helps speed healing on different things. So like my wife has just had ACL surgery, so some of the things we've been using are these things. We've also been using, the Compex. I haven't been using the Halo on her. Some of this we've been using, obviously, ice, cryotherapy for that. And one of the things, actually, if you want to plug that square thing in, this is maybe to show. It's almost like, so this is like,
Yeah.
so this is made by Gemba Red. There are a few other ones out there. There's a Joovv, there's a Rejuvenator. They all work around the same principle, but the different ones have different, yeah, sure, they have different approaches to it and different quantum healing codes, if you will. Basically, this one uses 2 different types of red light at 2 different frequencies. I think 630 and 650 nanometers, which are the 2 ones that you can see, and then there's another one on the infrared spectrum that you can't see. That's why it looks like they're just out.
Right. Okay.
So this is also for healing, collagen production. It's basically, I use it for recovery at night. It actually also helps you wind down. You want to avoid using the blue lights so much. And this is one of those things. You can use it in the morning, use it in the evening. So my wife, I've been using it with my wife also for her surgery, and it's helped reduce the swelling, help improve circulation, and at least in her N=1 after ACL surgery, she's probably like 6 or 7 weeks ahead of where other people are.
Right.
But to that end, she's also super competitive.
Yeah, we talked about Tim real quick. His wife's a boss, literally a boss.
So my wife is pretty great and super mother and and she's very competitive.
Hot.
She just recently got she's very pretty. And she's smart. She's successful. And so these are a lot of things we're using. So the PMF I use with her. This I use with her. And all these other modalities to try and accelerate her healing. And so on that note, I've also used this winter when I was in Vail, I took a horrible, horrible spill, and some of my friends will tell you about it, or we'll talk about it later, but I really thought for sure I broke my leg. The snow in Vail in I guess it was late January, wasn't awesome. They didn't have great snow at that time of the season. There's these little snow snakes, the tips of trees coming over, just flying down from one of the...
Yeah, I remember that. I was in town, remember?
Yes, you were actually...
We wanted to meet up, but we couldn't make it happen, but yeah.
So that's also, she and her climbing partner Naomi were in Colorado doing some of the college peaks, was it? Like Harvard?
The collegiate peaks,
Yes.
yeah, we were training.
For Denali.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. So I took a horrible, horrible spill. One of my friends was following me. We were just doing like 50, 60 miles an hour, and probably a little too fast, but I hit this tree snake, and then this ski popped off instantly, and then I started tumbling. This ski didn't, and it dove in, and then I'm pitched up in the air, and I'm thinking to myself, boy, this ski has got to come off sometime soon, because that hurts, and it didn't for the longest time, and then it eventually gave off, and then I went like 10, 15 feet in the air. He said, I don't know, he was up the hill, so maybe it was only like 4 or 5 feet, who knows, but at any rate, it sounds better, 10, 15, flipped in the air, and then thud landed on, and I thought for sure I heard something, but I didn't. But what I used was, because it's Colorado, it was legal. CBD was,
yes.
which I'm a big fan of, and it's not only for its anti-inflammatory, its relaxing properties, but also CBD salves helped muscle soreness.
Yep.
I use this daily for hours. In fact, I have 3 of them, so I had like my entire body like caked in it, like covered in it. I was using this PMF, this device, and I think those things accelerated my healing significantly. And then, as it happens, the next week we were away for February break, and then I also took up kite surfing, which that was so humbling, because like I can wakeboard, I can water ski and all that stuff, but like this added kite surfing, and I highly recommend this whole idea of beginner's mind, just going in there and trying something brand new that you haven't done before, because it was humbling, and I took so many hard spills, and I have to tell you, like Kite Provo, we were in Providenciales in Turks and Caicos, and something went off, but anyway, so we're still trying to figure out, we have multiple cameras going over here, and I heard a camera going off over here, so I'm just wondering if that was something. It was definitely something. We'll figure out what that was.
It sounded like the aperture doing something.
So hopefully it's just trying to autofocus again, but we have an iPhone going.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, that's also worth mentioning. Like, this is the stuff we love, the human performance stuff. Neither of us are professional videographers. So maybe that will get better over time, but it's not about the production value right here. We want to share information that's helped us perform better.
Absolutely. And so I guess on that note, maybe what we can do is, so real quick, traveling for the next couple of months, I got this thing called Human Charger. It basically also uses the different frequencies of of light. And you wear them like earphones. They have another one that you put up your nose. Different approach. But basically, it helps energize your brain in the sense that it sort of wakes you up much in the same way that sunlight does. There's a lot of science behind it. Ben Greenfield introduced me to this. And for those of you that are not familiar with Ben Greenfield, he's a stud. The guy
the
is
original
smart.
Gangster of online content for human performance.
Incredible, and the guy is fantastic. As are a lot of other guys that that we want to shout out to. Like Tim Ferriss is obviously somebody. Gary Vaynerchuk, absolutely. So actually, let's talk about it. Let's grab a couple of those books over there because, like, here I'll take those. I'll take that. Thanks.
So it's a long story. We'll get into it later. But for a long time, I wasn't reading because my eyes weren't converging properly after my head injury. So now I'm back at it. He's told me a bunch of books to read that have been invaluable. But.
Yeah. So Gary Vaynerchuk, you have to go online because I can't do the guy justice. He's become sort of this guru and this just a Svengali of social media marketing and really creating personal brands. So, I approach social media much like a lot of other people that Facebook, Instagram, sharing things like that, putting posts up there, but really reading 2 books, Crush It by Gary Vaynerchuk and also Crushing It, which is a follow-up. Basically, this gives you a front row look. If you want somebody to say, oh yeah, I picked, I knew Google was going to be, maybe not Google, but I knew, I bought Bitcoin when Bitcoin was, 4 cents a coin. Right, whatever. But here's Gary Vaynerchuk who said in 2008, these are things that the world needs to pay attention to because they're going to be huge. Now, 10 years later, you follow it up. And if you're not, so we've approached this whole experiment, the human performance experiment, also as an experiment of how do we sort of memorialize this, put this out there, and really build our own personal brands.
Absolutely. And I think one of the most refreshing things about him is I've had trouble in the past, being a fitness model and a chef and having all these things.
So Runner's World, look her up, Amanda Burrell, and...
But trying to find, trying to be authentic to myself and getting approaches, oh, well, you're a model, la, la, la. Well, you're bearing the lead. There are so many other things that I do.
Sure.
And getting this advice to not try and do everything, but I am a chef, I am an athlete, like to be really authentic to myself, to my brand, which is this person who does all these things.
Right, and Gary Vaynerchuk talks about that. He just said, essentially, be the best person, be the best you that you can be because nobody else is going to be that. So this entire experiment of us putting this out here, these are things that we do.
This is what we're talking about anyway when we're hanging out.
Right. So. And on top of that, over the next couple of months, we're really going to dive deep and do the social media, do the recording, do the video, do the podcast, dive into these things, continue to do bits of media every day in whatever mediums, blogs, writings, video, podcasts. But really, this man right here and what he's put out there and this sort of movement that he's developed and really this forward thinking. And you have to go, Google him, go on YouTube, watch some videos. This Gary Vaynerchuk is going to change your life. Much in the same way that the writing of Steven Kotler and Jamie Wheal have also, changed my life and a lot of other people's lives. So, I guess in that vein, there's, for me, one book that a friend of mine introduced me to, but I wish I'd found earlier, but I've probably read in the last couple of years. This particular book, Josh Waitzkin, The Art of Learning, and I have to tell you, there's no single better book on breaking down the process of human performance and gaining excellence and learning than this particular book right here. And that's really what this whole thing is about, that we do is constantly trying to learn. And Josh, for those of you that are unfamiliar with Josh, he was a child chess player. Search for Bobby Fischer was a movie written about his young life as a child, as a chess prodigy. But really, Josh, as he said in podcasts, he said he's really just, really been about learning, and he's actually also a Columbia grad. And then after he became a grandmaster in chess, then he went on to conquer or become a champion in Tai Chi Chuan and push hands, which is a martial application of Tai Chi Chuan. And to be able to take this process of learning and excellence in something that's considered to be solely mental, and then something that's considered to be solely more internal, physical, but really he found the meld between, like, he brought physicality to chess, and he brought chess to something that's considered to be a martial art.
Right. Awesome.
So these books right here are hugely positive. So these are books that I'm reading right now, and I travel with the Dhammapada, which is I'm trying to immerse myself in Buddhism and understand it a little bit better, because some other people in my life right now we're really exploring some things around Buddhism and philosophically, and they know who they are, but they've also helped me with fasting, which is great. And then Seneca, which I know Seneca and Stoicism's out there right now, but this is also a great book on the shortness of life, and it really helps change perspective about what we can really do, and that's with our lives. So in a nutshell, is we think life is so short, but really a life lived properly can be long enough. And so those are some themes that we'll go over. I mean, so that's where
I just attacked. I was on Denali on an expedition it was a 25-day expedition, but I read The Long Walk and I read Endurance. So one, a planned expedition that went wrong, the other, an escape from a camp. But those are the sort of things I like to read too, because the motivation, the levels, especially stories things that really happened. So I kind of delve into these fiction meets historical fiction type things, which, they're fun.
They're fun, and the fact that you've actually, how many people actually do these things? I know you, and I know a few other people that I know there are climbers out there, and probably a huge number of mountaineers and alpinists, and we'll talk about some of them later, and but to actually know somebody, I know you had a very difficult experience in the weeks going into your expedition, going to Denali, and then having this great triumph. It's actually a very nice balance of actually this struggle, and boy, what did you do there? And we'll unpack that also, because there's so many things that we can talk about there. So I think that you're probably finding now, or getting the gist of, there's a lot of things that we're trying to bring in from multiple different worlds about understanding how we can live our lives better and share this experience with you guys and learn along the way. And then, what lessons can we take from this experience at Denali or the weeks prior to that, and then apply it to the rest of your life? What can we take from athletics and apply it to building businesses? Or what can we take from the study of neuroscience around human performance and take that into everything? And being a better father, being a better husband, having better relationships.
Yeah. Being a better neighbor. Taking some of the mental lessons that we've both learned and applying that, but then scaling it for other people. That's something that you really helped me with, as far as, this is what happened to me, but then on a bigger level. And when I talk to other people, I could take that and transfer it to a scenario in their life and actually be helpful to them. Which, I think if you hadn't sort of taught me about scaling, I might not have been as good a friend as I am now.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. And I think that, part of what we're just trying to accelerate our learning process. So you're sharing things with me, I'm sharing things with you. We're and I think that's part of why this works so well.
Absolutely. So we want to share it with other people, because we realize consistently that this is great content, just our sessions.
Yeah.
So why not share?
And we're doing it anyway, and it's a great experience, and we're enjoying it. But so I think that gives you a pretty good overview of what we hope to explore in this, the fight, crush, kill human performance experience. And as we go along, we'd be happy to take questions, share ideas, hear ideas, and that's what this is all about. But, I think, on that note, Will, you've probably heard us ramble on now for quite a while, but I think...
Yeah, but we want to live our best lives. I know that's kind of trite saying, but
it's true.
It's true. And it is an experience to try different things and really maximize what's available. cross section with what we can get our hands on
Yes.
to make our lives a better experience.
Yes, absolutely. And so we'll sign off on that. I just wanted to show one quick thing that I've been meaning to get my hands on, but haven't been able to. And the band, there's no band here, but this is a band called Whoop. And I'm sorry, this is probably horrible of me, but this is. I just wanted to shout out because this really helps you track recovery using HRV. And this will actually, when you're like, oh, I feel really good, I could crush it again. But then this really helps us understand
Right.
whether you really are prepared to do that. And
Right.
we'll unpack all these things, but there's so many things to talk about. And thanks for letting me interject on that.
Oh no, absolutely. And I've been interested in that for a long time, and just coming back from injury, like diving into these things that don't look like much but give you so much information.
Yeah, totally. So we'll sign off on this one. And until next time, thank you very much. Look out for continued blog posts, video posts, Instagrams, Twitters, tweets on. I'm going to meet them on the Twitter.
I'm gonna learn how to use Twitter.
On the interwebs. So we'll see you soon, and we'll put some information out there. Come check out our website, fightcrushkill.com. We'll have Instagram tags up on there as well, Twitters. What is right now? People can find you best on.
I love Instagram, Amanda Uncharted. Just one word, Amanda Uncharted. But then my website is up, Uncharted Lifestyle Magazine. But the official launch is July 1st. But you can go check it out right now.
And I'm on Instagram, which is what I use most, but I don't post that often. But I will, Gary Vaynerchuk. I'm going to do all of these things. Erwin Valencia, spelled like it sounds. Erwin with an E, Valencia like the oranges. That's the Instagram at my name. And then also online, erwinvalencia.io. That's very important. I don't own the .com, and I know, Gary, that's my bête noire, and but Facebook, all out, those 9 yards, and we'll have everything up and dialed away. But thanks for listening, and if you've made it this far, listen. We're going to be doing some giveaways, and some of the things you've seen here, some of the things you've heard here. You may be the proud owner of new or slightly used versions of these things.
I'll wipe it off.
But really, thanks for sharing this with us, and we hope to keep going. And I guess that's it.
Yeah, super excited, guys.
Fight, crush, kill.
It's so easy, man.
I have to say,
it's easy. It just flows.
it feels like it.